No, and here's the problem. This is what the CDC currently tells you about COVID. If your 15-year-old has had COVID, they still want him to be vaccinated. If your 15-year-old boy has had COVID, they want him to be vaccinated, he gets vaccinated. Let's say he gets myocarditis, chest pain, goes to the hospital, and has a heart ailment from the vaccine. Do you know what the CDC tells you? As soon as he's better, he should get another vaccine. No parent with any lick of common sense would allow their kid to be vaccinated after they've already had COVID and had myocarditis from the vaccine. But the CDC's recommendation is that your kid should get a second vaccine as soon as their heart is better. The vaccine caused him a heart inflammation, and the CDC tells you this. This is why nobody trusts the CDC, because no mom with any bit of common sense would ever subject their kid to another vaccination after they had a heart inflammation from the first one. This is how idiotic these people are and how moronic. They have destroyed trust. They are the ones that have destroyed trust in vaccines and everything else, because they're really telling you stuff that's obviously not true, and you shouldn't take their advice.
The Energy Department saying, quote, it's more evidence that the media and public health groupthink about COVID was mistaken and destructive.
And that's the problem with censorship. You know, President Biden said once, not long ago, said that social media companies were, quote, killing people because they weren't censoring more on COVID disinformation. And that's obviously the problem here. Censorship doesn't save lives, but it can cost lives. You can cut off valuable public health debates. Origin, but the efficacy of things like masks and vaccines. That's what we have to talk about. Now, we may, we're going to continue to debate that, but we're now having the debate. It's just a couple of years late.
But here's the thing about science. Science has always been about a debate. You know, some people said the world was flat. Others came along and said, no, it's round. There was a great debate until we finally figured out that it was. Some people thought that the Earth was the center of the solar system. Somebody else came along and said, no, it's the sun, actually, that's the center of the solar system. And there was a debate about that until finally we figured out, yes, that Galileo was right. But here we have the shutdown of alternate theories about what's going on, and then the same thing applied to natural immunity from previous COVID infection. Oh, that's no good. You can't take that. You've got to have the vaccine because that was politically driven. And now we find out from this big study in Oxford that, oh, by the way, those masks that our children were wearing for so long, which hindered their development in school, they didn't really do anything either.
Right, these people have been largely vindicated. We also know from a lawsuit against social media that the CDC did participate in these back-channel discussions on who to censor, who to target. We just had a hearing I testified in that showed that as many as 80 FBI agents were actively involved in a censorship program. We need to know about that, too. The Democrats have opposed really any effort to investigate the role of the U.S. government in censoring citizens. But the polls indicate that the public wants to know. They want transparency here.
I mean, it is comforting to know, though, that all of the people who disagreed with what was being said at the time were not necessarily tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorists.
I want to ask you a question before I let you go about Lancet now recognizing that natural immunity, once you get COVID, that is stronger than 2 vaccines. Because here's another thing that if you said to people, well, I had a vaccine and then I had COVID, so they, laugh to you. What does that even mean, right? Now we know that it means quite a lot, right?
Yeah, Martha, it means a great deal. It always did, and it always disappointed me and upset me that people didn't give credibility to natural immunity. We know it for every pathogen, that the best form of immunity you can get is from being infected with the pathogen. And so it really was inappropriate, misguided, to have policies that mandated people to get vaccine even though they may have evidence of natural immunity from infection. So I think we should lay this to rest, that natural immunity is as powerful, or as does the article in Lancet suggest, even more powerful than a 2-shot vaccination series. And,
well, you know what, it
so
seems
it's just, again, it's...
apologies are due to you. They're due to Tom Cotton. There are a lot of reporters who also should apologize for some of what they said throughout this process. This is very serious very serious evaluations of what was going on. It impacted people's lives. It impacted education, the economy, everything. So I hope that some of those retractions and corrections are forthcoming. And you certainly were right for a very long time. Dr. Redfield, thank you so much. It's always good to have you with us. Go ahead.
I appreciate it. I said the hardest thing for me, since I live in Baltimore with all my grandkids, was the Baltimore Sun having all their first page stories saying that I was a racist because I suggested this came from an Asian lab. You know, very disappointing how people want to name call and not just have an honest scientific discussion about